बात कर रहा है कौन है?
हेलो, नहीं कट गया। हाँ मैम, क्या चढ़ा देती हूँ, ऊपर ही एक दूसरे के चढ़ा देती हूँ।
ऐसा इसी क्या होता है?
आ रहा है।
उतने पारा बन गया। ऐसा गाड़ी पूछा।
गुड मॉर्निंग मैम।
Recording in progress.
गुड मॉर्निंग मैम। गुड मॉर्निंग मैम। गुड मॉर्निंग मैम।
Good morning, ma'am.
गुड मॉर्निंग मैम।
Recording in progress.
गुड मॉर्निंग मैम।
Good morning, ma'am.
गुड मॉर्निंग मैम। गुड मॉर्निंग मैम।
Good morning, children.
Good morning, ma'am.
Morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
Morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Ma'am. Good morning, ma'am. बोलो कुछ मैम बोलो आप लोग मैम यू आर म्यूटेड ले कर लो कर लो
Your mic is on. Mute your mic.
Good morning, ma'am.
Yes. Good morning, all of you. Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Yes. Good morning.
मैम आपकी आवाज क्लियर नहीं है.
Yes, ma'am.
मैम आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही है
Yes, ma'am. मैम आपकी आवाज धीरे धीरे आ रही है.
मैम आपकी आवाज यस मैम नहीं आ रही क्लियर
आ जाएगी. Now, so I was preparing the topic that I have to teach today. I was writing on the blackboard. Blackboard is visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, children.
Yes, ma'am.
Yesterday, what I taught you, that was the topic of reflection of light, isn't it? वही topic था ना? Reflection of light था?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So, do
Yes,
you
ma'am.
remember anything in that? कुछ आप remember करते हैं? कुछ याद है आप लोग?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
What are you remembering? That
ma'am.
what is reflection?
Yes,
Ma'am, the phenomenon in
Reflection
ma'am.
क्या है? What is
Reflection on
reflection?
plate surface is called plate. Reflection on that surface is
ma'am,
called
the
reflection.
phenomenon of change in the direction of light rays when they fall on a polished surface is known as reflection.
Reflection of light.
Okay. Then reflection means first of all bouncing back of light, getting back from the reflected surface. उसको reflection बोलते हैं. So, and I told you that anything what is visible, जो भी visibility है हम लोग को कोई भी object का, is just due to the reflection of light. And if the reflection is of two types, first is regular reflection and second is
Diffuse.
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 Reflection.
Diffuse
yes,
reflection.
diffuse or irregular reflection. Clear? Then we discussed that we different terms was that for the formation of image that there
Lateral
are two
inversion.
types of image
Lateral
formation.
inversion.
Inversion.
And
वो
lateral
दूसरा है,
inversion.
पहले पढ़े थे ना, real image and virtual
But
image.
real image, virtual
You have
image.
studied yesterday.
Yes.
Real is
Yes,
actual
ma'am.
intersection of the rays and virtual is assumed reflection of the meeting
Is
of
the
the.
imagination.
It is a imagination. Then we studied about lateral inversion, isn't it? That the left side appears to be right and right
Yes,
side
ma'am.
appears
Appear to be
ये
left.
सारी चीज हम लोग yesterday पढ़े हैं. Then today's topic, आज का टर्म कुछ टर्म्स आपको पहले एक टॉपिक दिया हुआ है आपके बुक में लॉज ऑफ रिफ्लेक्शन, तो उसको पढ़ने के पहले हम लोग इस टर्म्स के बारे में जान लेते हैं कि कौन कौन सा टर्म को क्या कहते हैं. व्हाट इज इट कॉल्ड फर्स्ट द टर्म्स. सो यू जस्ट सी द डायग्राम विच आई हैव ड्रॉन. ये डायग्राम आप जब देखेगा, आई हैव नॉट लेबल्ड, जस्ट टू मेक यू अंडरस्टैंड दैट व्हाट इट इज. देखो, फर्स्ट एक रे यहाँ से जा रहा है. दिस इज योर रिफ्लेक्टिंग सरफेस. ये रिफ्लेक्टिंग सरफेस. क्लियर? अ रे इज बीइंग फॉलिंग ऑन दिस सरफेस. एक रे यहाँ पर फॉल कर रहा है. तो दोज रेज व्हिच फॉल ऑन द रिफ्लेक्टिंग सरफेस, दैट इज नोन एज इंसिडेंट रे. उसको क्या बोलते हैं?
Incident.
Incident ray.
हाँ, अगर कोई भी रे किसी सरफेस रिफ्लेक्टिंग सरफेस पर फॉल करता है तो दैट इज नोन एज इंसिडेंट. व्हेन एन इंसिडेंट रे विल फॉल, नेचुरली इट विल गेट रिफ्लेक्टेड. वो रिफ्लेक्टेड होगा.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
रे कौन सा होगा? ये होगा, दिस वन. सो दिस इज नोन एज
Deflected ray.
Reflected ray. Reflected ray.
This one will be
Reflected ray.
So there are two rays, दो रे है, दोनों रे
Incident ray and reflected.
reflected.
Incident ray and reflected ray.
So this is again incident ray. This one will be again an incident ray because it is falling here. Or this one will be your reflected. So the term is clear. The ray which is falling on a
Yes, ma'am.
surface or any surface, that is known as incident ray. And
Incident ray,
that ray when it gets reflected from that
Reflect-
surface, then that is known as
reflected ray.
reflected.
Reflected ray.
Clear?
Reflected
अब
ray.
इसके बीच से हम एक इमेजिनरी लाइन ड्रॉ करते हैं. दिस इज नॉट एक्चुअल, ये इमेजिनरी है. So this is an imaginary line drawn which is known as normal, जो दोनों को दो भाग में डिवाइड करता है. It is dividing that angle into two parts. तो एक देख रहे हो इंसिडेंट रे और रिफ्लेक्टेड रे के साथ एक एंगल बन रहा है ना. दिस एंगल,
Yes, ma'am.
तो हम ये एंगल मेजर करोगे तो कुछ कोई भी डिग्री का एंगल बनेगा ना. तो
Yes, ma'am.
normal is drawn into just separate those incident ray and reflected. ये normal हुआ
Yep.
है and recording in progress. This is the normal. Clear? अब देखो इंसिडेंट रे और नॉर्मल के बीच जो एंगल बन रहा है, this angle, that will be known as angle of incidence. इसको हम कहेंगे angle of incidence and it is denoted by I. इसको angle of incidence बोलेंगे. और this one will be called as angle of reflection and it will be denoted by small r. Clear? In the same way, incident ray, reflected, I and R. Clear? Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
रिपीट कर देते हैं. जो एंगल इंसिडेंट रे और नॉर्मल के साथ बनता है, so that is known as incident ray. And the ray which is formed by reflected ray and the normal, that is known as angle of reflection. Clear? ऐसे हम
Yes,
लोग डिस्क्राइब
Yes, ma'am.
अब देखो, अब फिर दूसरा एक और टर्म है पॉइंट ऑफ इंसिडेंस. ये सबसे पहले था लेकिन हम आपको नहीं बताया क्योंकि पहले हम लोग को ये समझना है. यहाँ पर ये रे फॉल कर रहा है और वहीं से फिर क्या हो रहा है, रिफ्लेक्ट हो रहा है. तो दिस विल बी द पॉइंट ऑफ इंसिडेंस एंड इट विल बी द पॉइंट ऑफ रिफ्लेक्शन ऑल्सो. यही पॉइंट क्या होगा, पॉइंट ऑफ इंसिडेंस भी होगा और पॉइंट ऑफ रिफ्लेक्शन.
Reflection.
ठीक है, दोनों में यही पॉइंट. Now this is your reflecting surface. ये reflecting surface है. Clear? अब ये दोनों reflecting surface is for incident ray also and the normal also and the reflected ray also. सारा चीज इसी surface से हो रहा है ना, so that will be known as plane of incidence and plane of reflection along with the normal. उसी को हम plane कहेंगे. Plane means the surface from which it is the incident ray is falling and the reflected ray is reflected back and the normal is. Excuse me. Any problem? अब ये बात समझ में आई?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
इस डायग्राम से क्या क्या टर्म रिलेटेड है? The point of incidence and the normal. The
Points of
the plane of reflection and plane of incidence.
Ma'am, angle of incidence and angle of reflection.
Yes, the incident ray and the reflected ray, and angle of incidence and angle of reflection. Now till here, किसी को कोई queries or question है तो पूछो.
No, ma'am. No,
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
या कोई confusion
Yes, ma'am,
आपको लग रहा है कोई term में?
No, ma'am. Clear है.
No, ma'am. Clear है.
Clear? So I will move to the other point. अब हम दूसरे point पर जाएंगे. So I will drop this. Clear?
Excuse me, ma'am.
हाँ बोलो.
मैम जो एंगल बनेगा मैम रिफ्लेक्टेड और इंसिडेंट रे का वो बराबर होगा कि नहीं होगा?
जब आपका रेगुलर रिफ्लेक्शन होगा ना, तो मतलब स्मूथ सरफेस से अगर रिफ्लेक्शन होगा देन इट विल बी इक्वल, but if it is on a rough surface then that is unequal, irregular. That is why we call it irregular, because that angle is not same. Yesterday I told you, जब smooth surface से reflection हो रहा है then the incident angle and reflected angle will be same, but if it is taking place on a rough surface that angle will not be equal. Is it clear?
यस मैम।
Yes, ma'am.
चलो, अब
Yes,
आ
ma'am.
जाते हैं आपका जो टॉपिक है लॉज ऑफ रिफ्लेक्शन पर। इस डायग्राम को रहने दो, तब आप लोग को समझने में सुविधा होगी, लेकिन उसको टॉपिक चेंज कर। नेक्स्ट टॉपिक इज लॉज ऑफ रिफ्लेक्शन। क्लियर? ये लॉज ऑफ रिफ्लेक्शन हुआ। इसमें कितना लॉज है? हाउ मेनी लॉज आर देयर? देयर आर 2 लॉज ऑफ रिफ्लेक्शन। 2 रूल है। विदाउट रूल एनीथिंग इज कैनॉट बी वर्कड सिस्टमैटिकली। तो रूल बनाना हर चीज में जरूरी होता है। तो हियर आल्सो लाइट इज आल्सो ट्रैवलिंग अकॉर्डिंग टू 2 रूल, and this angle is also made according to rules. So what is the first rule? The incident ray, the normal at the point of incident and reflected ray lie on the same plane. ये सारा देख रहे हो कि नहीं? Incident ray, ठीक है? Reflected ray, normal, they lie on the plane, same plane. This is your first rule. ये first rule हुआ. Clear?
Ma'am, can you please explain it again?
कहीं और होगा और रिफ्लेक्टेड किसी और सरफेस पर होगा, ऐसा नहीं होता है लाइट में। दिस इज द फर्स्ट रूल दैट द इंसिडेंट रे, रिफ्लेक्टेड रे एंड नॉर्मल दे विल ऑल लाई ऑन द सेम प्लेन, एक ही सरफेस पर। दिस इज द रूल। क्लियर? देन नेक्स्ट, द एंगल ऑफ इंसिडेंस एंड द एंगल ऑफ रिफ्लेक्शन आर इक्वल टू ईच अदर। व्हाट आई टोल्ड यू कि जब वो स्मूथ सरफेस पर होगा then that will be same. So this is the rule. It is working according to the rule. We are talking about the smooth surface. Clear? So here this angle and this angle will be same. Clear? So the second rule is angle of incidence is equal to angle of reflection. Clear?
Ma'am, can you
So
explain the
according
first?
to we will work in this plane mirror. Plane mirror का ये 2 rule है, laws of reflection. That you have to learn also and understand also. So in understanding, anybody has any problem in these 2
Ma'am,
rules?
can you explain the first rule?
Yes, I will tell. The incident ray, the reflected ray. देखो, suppose कर लो यहाँ से देखो। एक कोई इंसिडेंट रे, सपोज दिस इज योर रिफ्लेक्टिंग सरफेस, इंसिडेंट रे, रिफ्लेक्टेड रे, नॉर्मल कहाँ पड़ रहा है, किस सरफेस पर पड़ रहा है, हम एक नाम दे देते हैं ए बी। इज इट लाइंग ऑन द सेम प्लेन और नॉट?
Yes, ma'am.
सरफेस पर हो रहा है कि नहीं?
Yes, ma'am.
यही रूल है दैट इंसिडेंट रे, रिफ्लेक्टेड रे एंड द नॉर्मल they all will lie on the same plane.
Same plane.
Ray exam de do, this will be reflected ray and this will be normal. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
ma'am.
Angle जो incident angle बनेगा वही reflected angle बनेगा, यही same angle है measurement, दोनों का measurement same होगा. Clear? So this
Yes,
is the second rule.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Angle of reflection. Very easy. Now it
Yes,
is looking
ma'am.
easy.
Yes, ma'am.
If you understand, then you can learn it very easily. बहुत आसानी
Yes.
से याद हो जाए. ठीक है? अब इसी को एक एक्सपेरिमेंट फॉर्म में करना है टू प्रूव इट ही सिलिंड्रिकल पाइप जिसमें आपने क्वेश्चन पूछा है
You are muted.
now what is this activity 2 we will see इसमें क्या है what we have to understand that is this law of reflection is true or not क्या वो satisfy करता है actually or not so activity 2 ना आप कोई टिन कैन भी ले सकते हो या कॉर्क जो हम लोग प्ले करते हैं उसका जो हॉलो सिलिंड्रिकल बॉक्स निकलता है जिसमें वो कॉर्क आता है उसको भी ले सकते हैं लेकिन वी हैव टू डू दिस एक्टिविटी टू प्रूव दैट एंगल ऑफ इंसिडेंस इज इक्वल टू एंगल ऑफ रिफ्लेक्शन नाउ दिस इज द रिफ्लेक्टिंग सरफेस ठीक है अब यहाँ पर हम एक सिलिंड्रिकल बॉक्स ले जिसका दोनों सरफेस it is open from both the side and it is empty and it is cylindrical clear अब यहाँ से एक टॉर्च लाइट आप जलाइए place a torch over here ठीक है यहाँ पर एक टॉर्च प्लेस करो the light will go from the cylindrical box यहाँ से जाएगा और कहाँ फॉल करेगा on the reflecting surface now adjust another box एक और hollow cylindrical box लो और उसको इस तरह से एडजस्ट करो कि इसका जो रिफ्लेक्शन हो रहा है that is passing from that उस बॉक्स के थ्रू पास करना now adjust it in that way that this ray which is falling on this surface that is incident ray and you just collect it on a board or a paper so that the reflection passes from here what will you observe इसको जब आप ड्रॉ करोगे किसी सरफेस पर और एक नॉर्मल तो बताएं आपका इमेजिनरी लाइन है तो दिस नॉर्मल अगर ले लेंगे तो आप देखिएगा कि दिस एंगल इज इक्वल टू दिस एंगल मींस I is equal to R. So what is proof that the angle of incidence is equal to angle of reflection and in the incident ray and the reflected ray and the normal they all lie on the same plane. This is proved by this experiment. I will try अगर मेरे पास कोई hollow cylinder होगा then I will try to bring it tomorrow. वो हम करके आपको कल दिखा सकते हैं ठीक है
मैम हम लोग घर पे कर
any queries कोई question
No, ma'am.
so this is based on the law that you have studied अभी जो law हम लोग पढ़े उसी पर ये based clear तो ये प्रूफ करना है कि is that law satisfying that law is satisfied actually or no is it being true or not so it has been proved by this activity clear
yes ma'am
okay अब आपके पास अच्छा एक मिनट आज इतना ही रहने दीजिए बिकॉज इफ आई गो फॉरवर्ड देन आप लोग थोड़ा रीडिंग इसका कर लीजिए रीडिंग कल हम लोग नहीं किए थे ना
Ma'am,
Ma'am, can I Ridhima Raj of class 7E?
Ma'am,
Ma'am, can I? Ma'am, Ridhima?
can I assist
रिधिमा
Okay, ma'am. Laws of reflection. It has been observed that the reflection of light from a surface always takes place in a well-defined manner in accordance with two simple rules or laws. We call these two rules or laws as the two laws of reflection.
first page Yesterday we didn't read it.
Okay, ma'am. Chapter 2 is light. Look at the picture shown above. We see not only the original monument itself, but also its picture in the water. This picture in the water source, as we now know, is due to the phenomenon known as reflection of light. We have already learned in class 6 that a plane mirror can change the direction of light falling on it. Such a change of direction by a mirror is due to the reflection of light by the mirror. Reflection of light from plain, shiny, or polished surface mirrors stainless steel spoon plate is known as regular or plane reflection. This is because light is reflected from these surfaces in a well-defined, orderly manner, and this often results in a glare. Reflection of light from non-shiny, non-polished, or irregular surfaces often takes place in irregular, diffused manner. This is known as diffused reflection. Can you now guess about the type of reflection which help us in seeing different objects around us? Let him perform an activity to recall the characteristics of the image of object formed by a plane mirror. मैम एक्टिविटी भी रीड करूं?
Yes, yes.
Okay, ma'am. Activity. To study the characteristics of an image formed by plane mirror. Fix a graph paper on the drawing.
It is the word characteristics.
Okay, ma'am. Characteristics of an image formed by plane mirror. Fix a graph paper on the drawing board or a thick cardboard piece. Draw a thick line in the middle of the graph paper. Hold the plane mirror strip vertically on this line in the middle of using a wooden groove or some modeling clay. Place one small object, for example, a pencil, an eraser, a crayon, a figure from your toy game, at the end of one of the squares of graph on the line that is perpendicular to the mirror. Note the width of the object size by counting the number of squares on the graph paper. Now look at the image formed in the plane mirror. Note down the position and signs of this image. Move the object on the perpendicular line, first closer and then farther away from the mirror. What do you observe? The image is always of the same size as that of the object and as far behind the mirror as the object is it the front of it. Place a vertical screen, cardboard piece, thick sheet of paper behind or in front of the mirror. Let us try to obtain the image of a given object on the screen. What do you observe now? We find that the image of an object formed by a plane mirror cannot be obtained on the screen. This image is therefore a virtual image. Third, cover an eraser with a sheet of paper and draw a figure cartoon on one side of the eraser. Place the side of eraser having this figure in front of the mirror. What do we observe now? Move the figure to different positions in front of the mirror. Is the image of the figure upright or upside down? Is the right side of figure towards the right side in the image? We find that the image does not appear upside down and is always upright, erect. The image also shows an interesting property. The right side of the object appears as left side in the image. Similarly, the left side of the object appears as the right side of the image. We call this phenomenon as lateral inversion. Note, the above activity can also be performed using a chessboard in a place of graph paper. Laws of reflection. Laws of reflection. It has been observed that the reflection of light from a surface always takes place in a well-defined manner in accordance with two simple rules or laws. We call these two laws or laws as the two laws of reflection. We must, however, first know some terms to understand and explain the two laws of reflection. Some important terms. Some important terms. The point of incidence and the normal. The point of incidence is that point on the surface of the mirror where the incidence ray fall. A line perpendicular to the surface at the point of incidence is known as the normal at the point of incidence. The incident ray and the reflected ray. The ray of light coming towards the mirror is called the incident ray. Similarly, the ray of light which turns back after reflection from the mirror surface is known as reflected ray. Angle of incidence and angle of deflection. The angle between the incident ray and the normal at the point of incidence is known as the angle of incidence. Similarly, the angle between the normal and the reflected ray at the point of incidence is called the angle of reflection. The plane of incidence and the plane of deflection. We know that we can use 2 points to define a line and 2 lines to define a plane. The plane defined by the incident ray and the normal at the point of incidence is called the plane of incidence. Similarly, the plane defined by the deflected ray and the normal at the point of incidence is called the plane of reflection.
So till
Activity
here
2.
children, 1 minute, 1 minute
Yes.
रुको. आपको कोई भी confusion है? Any confusion if you have in any terms or any of the topics?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
No, ma'am.
Then
No, ma'am.
anybody
Ma'am.
wants to ask anything? हाँ बोलिए.
यस मैम. मैम मोल्डिंग क्या होता है? मोल्डिंग क्ले
जल्दी कहाँ से वो word लिए हो?
एक्टिविटी 1 से.
Molding means which can be changed. The shape can be changed. Molding clay उसको बोलते हैं. जो clay से आप लोग खेलते हो, जो toy clay होता है, जिसको दूसरे दूसरे शेप में हम लोग मोल्ड कर
मैम
सकते हैं.
जिसको हम लोग
उसी को हम
दूसरे
लोग
शेप
fix
में कन्वर्ट कर सकते हैं.
हाँ, हम लोग वो प्लास्टिक वाले ये नहीं होता है, टॉय होता है जिसके साथ वो देता है क्ले टॉयज यू कैन मेक आल्सो फ्रॉम दैट. सो दैट इज मोल्डिंग क्ले, जिसको कि हम दूसरा शेप में डाल सकते हैं. तो दैट इज आल्सो यूज्ड एज फिक्सिंग क्ले. उसको फिक्स करने के लिए भी यूज किया जा सकता है. ओके, चलिए.
Activity 2. To study the relationship between the angle of incidence and the angle of reflection. Take a drawing board and keep the plane mirror vertically upright on it, near its center. Hold one cylindrical tube, cardboard, with a narrow opening at its front in a inclined position with its front end almost touching the mirror. Direct a powerful torchlight into the tube. Ask your friend to hold a second similar cylindrical tube cardboard at the matching angle. Now you move your tube so that it makes different angle with the plane mirror. What is your observation? What does your friend do to get the reflected light to come out from the end of the second tube? You will see a circle of reflected light at the end of the second tube, provided the second tube is oriented at the correct angle. Angle of incidence is equal to angle of reflection. The light will be reflected from the mirror and will move down through the second tube to its end. Whenever the angle of reflection equals the angles of incidence. However, when a ray of light